Well, I am so excited to welcome Christine McCarthy today, who is the treasurer of APC. And I know everybody is going to love what you have to share today, Christine. So, welcome. And I'd love for you to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Angela. I am happy to be here and thank you for the opportunity to talk about myself and to talk about my favorite subject, APC. I'm originally from Chicago, moved around a lot in my younger years, but really have spent the majority of my time here in Southern California. I am employed at the present time at Cal State Fullerton. I have 4 grown children, and I'm proud to say, as of last December, every single one of them now has a degree from the Cal State system. So I'm very proud of each of them, especially the youngest, who had to do it under pandemic circumstances, which were not really that easy. So I've been in Southern California the majority of my life. My newest news, which I just thought of that I should probably share, is that I have applied for Irish citizenship and was just ready to get my paperwork when the pandemic hit. And so now every time I call, Ireland still hasn't opened that office. So that's my retirement dream, is to buy a little cottage in Ireland. I still have family there, and most of my family here would love to go there. So that's something that we're looking forward to. I've been working in higher ed for a little over 40 years. So I still enjoy it. I still like working with students. I still enjoy supporting students. I started work at Cal State Fullerton in 1983 as a grad student. And I was kind of in and out of the system. I left for a couple other job opportunities, and I came back in 1987 as the assistant director of the Learning Center. I also served as the director of Summer Bridge. And my first stint obviously was in academic advisement. I was a general ed counselor. And my last position was director of athletic academic services. So basically working with the student athletes.
Wow, that's impressive right there with all those different positions. So let me ask you, when did you actually join APC?
Well, funny story, or maybe not so funny. I was not aware that there was a union at Cal State Fullerton. I was not aware that any of the different departments were represented. It wasn't something that was talked about. This is 1987, and basically we really hadn't become a union until before 1985, but still you would have thought human resources would mention it, and they did not. So I worked for several years not even understanding or knowing that I was represented by a union or that I could join a union. And I really didn't find out till I moved to athletics, and one of the people working athletics actually happened to be the chief steward, who said, well, why haven't you joined the union? And it's like, well, I didn't know there was a union. Not the thing any chief steward wants to hear.
Oh, yeah.
It's much
hopefully that doesn't happen anymore.
Well, it doesn't, because part of our contract now says that they have to invite the chief steward to any new orientation of new employees, so that they get about 10 or 15 minutes to say, hey, you're represented by us. Here's what you need to know. Here's my office number. Give me a call if you're interested. So a lot has changed in the last 30 years.
So when you found out about APC, what made you want to join?
Oh, I immediately joined. I'm from a union family, a union background. I can't imagine. My grandfather would roll over in his grave if I did not join the union. My grandfather was actually in the guild in Ireland, which is what they're called in Ireland. It's a guild. And he came to Chicago because there was a lot of building going on in Chicago and none going on in Ireland at that time. So he, packed up his family and came to Chicago, joined the union here, the operative masons, plasters, and concrete workers, or something like that. My father obviously got his union card when he was 18, And our life in Chicago pretty much revolved around the union. Unlike a public employee union, when you work in the trades, you spend a lot of time at the union hall. You're there on a Saturday for coffee and donuts to pick up your job for the next week. They had ladies' card night. Probably don't do that anymore, but the moms would go and play cards. The kids would run around. You get a free turkey at Thanksgiving, Christmas presents. We were at the union hall a lot. We ended up in California because of the union. Being a plasterer, there's not a lot of work in the winter in Chicago. So my dad was sent with a group of guys out to California, Santa Barbara actually, for construction, because this was in the 50s and there was a lot of construction. And he came home that winter. He was gone most of the winter, and he came home and packed us up. And we all left. He put all the kids in the car and we came to California. So I've always been part of a union. My first union job, I was 19. I joined the culinary workers. I was working my way through college at the University of New Orleans as a bartender. And again, you sign on the line and you join the union because you know that the union is there for you, right? The whole purpose of unions is to support the workers. So of course, it never occurred to me not to join. And I was quite embarrassed that I didn't know we had one.
Yeah, so you've just known all about the benefits. You've reaped them your whole life.
My whole life.
Well, that's great. That's great. So let me ask, did you start off with another role in CSU before actually joining the executive board?
I did. Like I said, that I worked in the department with the chief steward, and he was the only steward. And he asked me if I wanted to be a steward. Sure, I'll be a steward. But basically all I did was buy the pizza and the drinks and set up the rooms. I really didn't have a lot to do with actually running the union. Didn't go to any of the statewide councils. And when he retired, he gave me what we call the box, which is basically they put a file box on your desk with all the important stuff about the union and tag you're it. So that's, I think that was about, I can't remember what year it was, but probably 2000, where I became chief steward and actually was able to attend the statewide council meetings. Around 2001, Dr. Charles Getzel, who was the president at the time, our Southern vice president, had resigned the position. She just didn't have time for it because, again, these are mostly volunteer hours. And he kind of talked me into becoming the Southern vice president. He actually said I'd have more time to spend with my family. Not exactly true, but I loved it. I really loved being able to go out and visit the different campuses and meet with members from all over the state. And then in 2003, our then treasurer moved out of the CSU. So I took over as the treasurer position, and I've been the treasurer ever since.
Wow, that's a pretty long run then. So that's I'll say thank you on behalf of all your members, and obviously you enjoy what you're doing. Keep coming back for more, right? So speaking of that, well, what made you want to become the treasurer then? Like, why this position of service when you've got so much else going on?
I think, like a lot of people who become active in the union, something happened that wasn't quite right. You start to realize that there are some inequities in the system. Our contract was not exactly fair to our members. In particular, I got pregnant with my youngest child and was going through the contract, trying to plan the rest of my life. Excuse me. And I had never read the article about family leave, never thought that I would need to know that. And much to my horror, Unit 4 members only had 5 days of family leave. I don't know about any of you, but I didn't know how I was going to come back to work 5 days after having a baby. That's
crazy.
And then at the time I thought, okay, well, I've got lots of vacation. I'll just add my vacation time. So I had gone to my supervisor, and she was not very supportive at all. and refused to allow me to use my vacation time to kind of add it so I could have at least a couple of weeks off from work. And the whole time you're kind of shocked. You're like, okay, I've worked here for years. I'm a very good employee. I've basically worked 50-hour weeks. And now when I need help, all of a sudden everyone's turning away. I, of course, was able to go to the president because I happen to know the president. When you work in athletics, it's kind of a very visible place. So you see the presidents and the vice presidents at different game events and things like that. So I just went above this person's head and was able to get enough leave. But, a couple of months later, when I was starting to kind of get my rhythm back, I thought that's just wrong. And that must be so difficult for new employees. And the chances are it's the new employees who don't have a leave bank, who don't have vacation, who don't have sick, who are most likely become family at that point, right? That's more likely than the 45-year-old lady over there in athletics. So that's what I really wanted to become part of the bargaining team and kind of sketch out and talk to people about, well, what else is happening that's not fair? And let's work on it. We can work on it as members. We can make some changes.
Well, on behalf of all the moms and dads, a big thank you for getting those changes made. So that's quite an accomplishment right there. And speaking of accomplishments, do you have a story that you can share that might be one of your most proud accomplishments since you've been with APC?
Yeah, all of the things that I'm most proud of have to do with the gains we as members have gotten through our contract. When we first had a contract, 85 to 86, it was really put together. We had a little help from an international, but it was put together like volunteers, like today. Volunteers. We're all volunteers on the bargaining team. It's Unit 4 members. They're not people that went back to Washington, D.C. and got trained in putting together contracts. So just as members, just by joining together, we have gotten some tremendous gains in our contract. Obviously, parental leave I will always be most proud of, but we also bargained the fee waiver. And the fee waiver is if you want to go back to school, if you want to go back to the CSU, the fee waiver pays for the first 6 units. And if you're not using it, the fee waiver can also be used for your dependent. Wasn't a big deal to me at the time when I was on the bargaining team, but I saw it as something that our members would want. Again, not, once I had my own child, the first 3 children did not have the fee waiver, but the last one did, and it makes a very big difference. One of the things that we've done, again, as a bargaining team and the members, is we have changed the status of the temporary employees. We call it the temp to perm. When I first started bargaining, our contract allowed for temporary employees, and they were always temporary employees. You could be a temporary employee for 30 years. Wow. You never were able to gain permanency. And that's scary. I mean, to spend your whole life working somewhere and knowing if a layoff came, you would be the first to go, regardless of the fact that you're running the department and you've been doing it for 30 years. So that was something else we gained. In our contract, we now have language that says after 4 years in a temporary position, they have to make you permanent. That's huge. That is definitely huge. We also got some language that said that we work an average of 40 hours, meaning over a 6-month period, if you're working more than 40 hours a week, they have to give it back to you in some way. And knowing Unit 4 people, we haven't had a lot of people file grievances on that issue because we all tend to work more than 40 hours. We know that. We're absolutely dedicated to our students, and if they can only meet at 5:30, then we stay and meet with them. But the language is there in case you're being abused. And the bonus programs. I should talk about the bonus programs. Right now, we're in the month of November. I don't know when you might be viewing this, but every October, our members get a small bonus, a small bump in their pay. And It really came about when the Board of Trustees and the CSU was insisting that the only kind of raises that should be given should be performance-based. And they wanted to decide what that performance-based was. And they were going to take a portion out of our GSI, our general salary increase, to fund these performance-based bonuses. And we let it ride for 1 year until we discovered that very few people were getting it. So they're going to take 1% of my general salary increase that's supposed to be my pay, and they're giving it to someone down the road, not equally to all of us. In fact, at my campus, only 7 people got this bonus and 1 person got 25%. It's like, okay, that's definitely not going to work. So we were able to put together and convince the CSU that we could use our GSI money toward bonuses that made sense for working professionals. So that's how we got the education bonus. If you get a bachelor's, a master's, or a PhD, there's a little pot of money for you. The long-term service bonus, because again, our argument is the longer that you work for the CSU, the more valuable you are as an employee. That would kind of be intuitive.
Yes.
but it isn't always. So there's something called the long-term service bonus. So you get your first bonus on your tenure, after 10 years, and then 5 years afterwards. And we've been able to we funded those bonuses. Every member that voted for it, we gave up a portion of our salary so that we could fund those programs. Now it looks brilliant, right? Because there were years when we didn't get any raise at all, or they furloughed us. And we, as a unit 4 people, were the only ones getting any kind of money. So, in retrospect, what we actually put together on cocktail napkins, sitting in a bar after one of our bargaining sessions, turned out to be brilliant. But it's something that our members appreciate.
Oh, that's really great. There's so many things. I love these stories that, I'm sure there's so much more to come. And I could listen to you for probably another hour, but I think we'll close this interview out right now. But I do want to ask if you have any final thoughts to share.
I do. And speaking to the members, I so appreciate the members of APC and the employees of Unit 4. I'm really gratified. I have held this position for quite a while, but I'm so gratified of all your support and your trust in me, and the support that we get when we go out there and bargain. I'm always so thankful that there are Unit 4 members that are interested in working and helping their fellow members. I'm so proud to be part of this kind of organization, and hopefully I will continue.
Oh, well, thanks so much. Thanks, Christine, for joining me and for sharing all of this. I'm sure the members completely appreciate you and all you do. That's apparent given, you're over a couple of decades now from doing this. So, and I'm sure they hope that maybe that trip to Ireland, hopefully it's a little bit farther off so that they can keep you around for a little while longer. But thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.